Adia, congratulations on your debut on the ACL stage. It's been great to have you. Powerful show.
It was a damn good time.
That's what we love to hear.
Yeah.
So, A Southern Gothic came out, hard to believe, a year ago.
What is time?
I know, what is time? But speaking of which, there is something about that that is timeless. It still continues to resonate a year later and will for 5, who knows how many more years, because it is a timeless body of work and collection of songs. The way you described it when it came out, you said you wanted this record to encapsulate the extremes of the South. Mm-hmm. So could you explain that a little bit further in your own words?
Yeah. I think the Southern Gothic, I know, it is about the ultimate human theme of belonging versus not belonging. And I wanted to tell that story of belongingness in Southern society through the perspective of a young Black woman, and to find the universal in her story. And I think that, over the course of the pandemic, which was when the record was written and produced, I was dealing with timeless themes in my life of life and death and uncertainty. And I think that A Southern Gothic was just the product of me asking, eternal questions of how much more time do I have? What's going to kill me? How much of an impact am I going to leave on this earth? Do I belong? Who are my people? And all of those themes just kind of course through the record.
There's such a tradition or history of Southern storytelling, whether it's an author, a singer-songwriter, a screenwriter, a poet, but especially as it applies or as it comes from a Black woman's perspective.
Sure.
How is that different?
I don't think that it's funny. I don't know that it's any different than any other Southern artist's story. I think that the only difference with Black women is that we've had all of the illusions stripped from us. We were never able to, hide behind this genteel veneer. So we had to deal with the realities of Southern life, the beauty and the terror of it up front with no guard. And I think that when you're able to face that, when you're able to confront, the rawness of your existence, that's where the art is. But I wouldn't say that my story as a Black woman is any different than, a Johnny Cash's story, because he felt like an outcast too. He felt like an outsider, and he was able to place himself in the periphery of Southern society and get that perspective to write cleanly about it.
There's this tension between wanting to leave the South and also wanting to come back home to the South. Is that painful sometimes?
I wouldn't say painful as much as it is disorienting, I spent 2 years cooped up in Nashville, my mom's house. I was like, I can't wait to get out of Tennessee. And then when I left, I was like, I want to go home. But that's the thing about, Southerners. Our story, as part of the American story, it's not finished. It's not inclusive in that aspirational American tale. We have so much that still haunts us in the South, so much that's still unresolved and up in the air. And we have ghosts and demons that follow us, and no matter if we're down in Dixie or across the world, we take the South with us wherever we go.
In your case, as part of your story, religion played a big part.
It did.
Which is common among the stories that people have growing up living in the South. And it seems to have more impact than it does perhaps in some other parts of the country. But that really just depends on your family situation and where in particular you come from. I know you talked about it some on stage tonight, but how exactly did religion impact your perspective, your growth as a human being?
Oh, God.
That's a loaded question.
Yeah. The first 10 years of my life, I was a member of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, me and my family. And my school was the Adventist school that was attached to the church. So all I knew was this very closed, highly controlled system. But if you look outside of that, even secular society in the South is a religion unto itself. Nowhere is religion so heavy in the States than it is in the South. our manners, our culture, what's acceptable and what isn't, it has this religiosity to it. And we cling to it because if not, then what else? So much of our identity is tied to these binary ideas of heaven and hell, good and evil, black and white, belonging and outsider. And I think for me, I struggled so much to tear myself between those two poles. I was much more interested in the gray and the mystery of life and the liminal spaces, because I think that's where human nature really has to deal with the funk of itself. You know what I mean? Yeah.
There's a lot of that in the South too.
Oh yeah, it's funky.
So most of the songs, if not the entire album, came together while you were in Paris. And then you came back to Nashville and basically finished the project with T-Bone. This seems about as far removed from growing up in South Carolina as it gets. But did that help in a way?
Yeah, so much of A Southern Gothic was produced and written in Paris. Paris is my writing spot. It's my brooding spot. And I find that it's easier to write about home when I leave home. It's kind of like having a palate cleanser. I get to finally release that baggage. I have so many memories and trauma and history in the South that sometimes it's hard to get the distance that I need in order to distill it into art. So I'd like to go over to Paris and take all of my writing with me. I had the complete collection of Eudora Welty's short stories with me, and as a guidepost, as I would write, she kept my Southern eye sharp. But yeah, a lot of these songs were written while I was walking through the streets of Paris, listening to the Alan Lomax recordings, getting that rhythm, getting that sense of the dirt, the physicality of the South through those songs, those field songs.
I was just going to ask you about the influence that Alan and John Lomax had.
Yeah.
You basically answered that question already. So two of the songs that you did tonight are not from A Southern Gothic. They were written either during the pandemic or more recently. I forget which one you wrote just this year, right?
Ain't Kill Me Yet?
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, it was written in the same session as Southern Gothic.
Okay,
I just didn't put it on the record.
Well, that all begs the question now that A Southern Gothic is a body of work that you basically finished about a year or so ago. What comes next?
What's next for me is a bubble bath. And that's as far into the future as I can peer. There's a bubble bath.
Everybody should have a good bubble bath.
There you go.
Every now and then. So, and the future will be there, right? When
There
you're
you
ready to face it.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Being a guest, and we look forward to wherever your path takes you, Adia, and hopefully we'll see you back here.
Cheers. Thank you.